Capital investment, consolidation, and new ownership models are really reshaping the industry across every segment. So I think even operators who aren't really involved with M&A are even feeling the impact.
This is All Things Fitness and Wellness, uniting industry thought leaders and fitfluencers on the mission to inspire innovation and encourage people to live a life fit and well. It's a new year, and the fitness industry is entering 2026 with momentum, but also real questions. Growth is back, younger generations are reshaping demand, and operators are navigating everything from rising expectations to policy, technology, and capital shifts. Today, I'm joined by Liz Clark, President and CEO of the Health and Fitness Association. Liz sits at the intersection of advocacy, public health, and operator reality. In this conversation, we talk about what became clear for the industry over the past year, where operators are feeling the most pressure right now, and where there's real opportunity as we travel through 2026. Before we get to it, be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly featuring industry thought leaders and influencers. I'm your host, Krissy Vann, and this is ATFW. Hard to believe, but we have come to the end of another year and a really exciting one for the fitness industry. So to chat more, I have CEO and President of the Health and Fitness Association, Liz Clark. Thank you for coming back onto ATFW.
Thanks for having me, Krissy. Excited to be here.
And Liz, one of the big things that makes it exciting is that there has been a transition in language through the year with every executive that I've spoken with. You know, we've chatted over the last couple where it was all about the rebuild and the recovery, but now everyone's talking about this forward momentum. So looking back on 2025, at what moment was it recognized in the industry that we're actually in a growth cycle?
I think for me, the real turning point was the 2025 HFA show in Las Vegas. The energy, people felt it, experienced it for real. The conversations that were happening were noticeably different also. So I think operators were finally focusing on growth, investment, long-term strategy rather than recovery where we had been for so many years. We also would add that we probably have the same momentum globally at our European Congress, where operators were also talking about how they're scaling what's working there. And then when you combine all that with our global report that showed revenue and membership growth comparable across all countries the year before that. So I think it's when operators are saying something that lines up with our data, it's a strong signal that the industry is finally in a sustainable growth cycle.
To your point, on a global scale and everyone really uniting around a lot of the same messaging. From the HFA's perspective, I'm curious, especially from a North American lens, where are operators feeling the most pressure right now? And where might they be underestimating their own resilience?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think the biggest pressure that operators are feeling right now is honestly basically the basic cost of doing business. So we recently did a member appreciation campaign where we spoke to hundreds of our members, and we consistently heard concerns about not only economic uncertainty, tariffs, rising operation expenses like labor, and then ongoing challenges with hiring and retaining trainers, which has been a long-term challenge that we've seen for a while. So I think where the resilience is maybe often underestimated is on the demand side. So back to looking at some of the research side, our consumer research has shown that 9 out of 10 Americans view regular physical activity as a core form of preventative health care. And also, only about a quarter of consumers say that they would cut fitness spending if budgets tighten. So well behind categories like dining out, traveling, or entertainment. Um, that underlying demand strength is also why HFA is focusing on helping operators manage the costs and staffing. And dealing with all of these challenges. So we're actually going to launch our first employee compensation and benefits study that we haven't done since 2019, so that our operators can have that knowledge at their fingertips to make these business decisions in real time.
Yeah, one of the things I know that you and I had chatted about toward the beginning of the year was that investment that the HFA was making in research. And that's just one of the many examples. And data is the driver. And I actually had just come off a conversation this week with Lee Robinson at ABC Fitness, and he dubbed 2025 the year of Gen Z. And we know that younger generations are the ones that are driving the story and membership growth right now. So, how is HFA helping operators adapt? Because we also know this generation, they have shifting expectations around experience, value, and accessibility.
So, listen, I think one thing that I want to say about this is actually our role at HFA isn't really to tell operators how to run their businesses and what to do with these generations and what to do to make an appealing model and service experience for these companies. It's really to create the business conditions that can help them adapt to all these changes with confidence. So we do that by convening the industry and facilitating shared learnings around how Gen Z and Gen Alpha are engaging with fitness and wellness community. So we do it through our events, our education, our leadership forums, and operators are learning directly from one another about what's really actually working. So we're also intentionally bringing younger voices to the conversation. So including content creators, influencers like yourself, along operators and other industry leaders. So again, when you combine all that with data research and targeted advocacy to reduce friction, this approach really helps operators evolve without losing what's making their businesses successful.
And one of the things that I love about those events is really that same team feeling. You could have competitors sitting together in the same panel, but it's shared learnings that really are turning the tables as the industry as a whole. And it's just this collective moving forward to a common goal. And where that's extremely apparent, especially under the HFA umbrella, is of course under advocacy. That remains central to HFA's mission. So, which policy or regulatory issues do you feel operators should be paying the closest attention to as we move into 2026?
Yeah, thank you for raising that, Krissy, because I do think advocacy matters because when a policy decision is made, it affects all of our operators' day to day businesses. And one of those in 2025 was a big one where we advocated was on the FTC's click to cancel rule. And that was a very meaningful win for this industry. Now, at the same time, cancellation and auto renewal standards are far from settled. So we expect the FTC to revisit these issues, and the states are going to continue to advance their own regulatory approaches. So operators don't need to track this every day. That's our job. So we're working on behalf of folks managing and watching those things day to day. So we have tools like the HFA's State of the States report that give operators a clear view of emerging risks across all 50 states to help them avoid maybe compliance surprises, if you will. So staying engaged with HFA really ensures that industry has a unified professional voice where we can help shape all of these policies.
Well, and one of the big conversations and drivers around this when we are advocating as an industry is really getting to the root of what this industry does. And at the end of the day, it's a matter of preventative health care, not just in physical well being, which is well documented, but the conversation has increased around our mental well being, our social well being. And so, as that conversation around fitness and public health continues to expand, how is the HFA positioning the industry within broader healthcare and prevention conversations?
It's a really important question. I'll tell you, since the day I got here, it's one of the things that I said we are going to change the narrative around this industry and talk about that we are preventative healthcare. So we've been very intentional about positioning fitness as an essential part of healthcare and the prevention ecosystem. Very exciting at the federal level, we've actually advanced physical activity within national health priorities here in the US, where we've included progress with Medicare, where they're now going to pay physicians to assess physical activity as part of patient care. We're also leading legislation to solidify physical and activity across federal government operations, including the physical activity guidelines and the President's Council. So great wins here in the US, but then globally, we have our advocacy summit that are continuing to bring federation leaders together and align strategies that share with what's working. So when you put all of that together, we see a shift in fitness being seen from optional to being recognized as foundational to preventative for long-term population health.
Every stride forward of everyone coming together to amplify this message is going a long way. I just joined the Fitness Industry Council of Canada here a week for one of their webinars. And same thing, there's that momentum and that understanding. And the beauty is now, because of the research the HFA is doing, there'll be more data to back it up every time those conversations are entering the arena with policymakers, which is great news. And along with research comes the plethora of technology, data, and digital engagement that we're seeing accelerate in the industry at a rapid pace. So, from a leadership standpoint, where do you see the real opportunity versus unnecessary complexity for operators?
I think technology and data create real opportunity when complexity is managed thoughtfully. And I don't know about you, but I hear about AI every single day of my life. I was at a conference last week where 3 sessions of it, was talked about and who's leveraging it. And just for an example, they asked people in the room, it was about 100 execs, who's using it a couple times a month. And it was about a third of the room. And then it said, who's using it every week? And it was about a third of the room. And then it said, who's using it every day? And it was about a third of the room. So I think that people that are leaning in and really understanding it, training their staffs on it, are really, really smart. And just another anecdote that came out of that is they said, I think in a few years we won't even be talking about AI because it will be so ingrained in what we do. It'll be like how we don't talk about how do we use PowerPoint or how do we use Word or Excel or Google something. It's just going to be as natural as every other technology that we've learned. But the real opportunity is really using data to improve member engagement, just like many of our listeners do. So to personalize experiences and to better demonstrate the value of fitness within the broader health system. So one of the things we're doing here at HFA is we're convening the Digital Health Council, where we're going to focus on unifying data standards across equipment, wearables, and platforms. And then while closely monitoring data privacy legislation. So again, sort of the education with the policy side of things. So as healthcare integration and potential physician referral pathways become more realistic, we're preparing early so that operators can participate without being overwhelmed by new compliance burdens, red tape, and all of the such. So our goal is to simplify innovation so that operators really can stay focused on serving their members, which they do so well.
Remember when you announced the council too, and obviously there's names that are part of it that everyone's well familiar. So you kind of have taken these top brains that have their pulse on what's happening in the industry. Because that's the thing in the tech space, to your point, it's moving so quickly. So I can understand if you're an operator that maybe has less resources, it would be difficult to have a handle on everything as it changes. So being able to lean on each other to learn from each other is going to be imperative. Another thing that really kind of matches where we started the conversation is the momentum in the industry. I mean, it was a strong year when it came to capital flooding in, consolidation, we saw a lot of new ownership models coming into play. So, what trends is the HFA watching that operators should understand, even if they're not directly actively involved right now in M&A?
Yeah, I think capital investment, consolidation, and new ownership models are really reshaping the industry across every segment. So I think even operators who aren't really involved with M&A are even feeling the impact because consolidation affects competition, pricing, real estate, access, labor markets, and to see how quickly new concepts scale. So what we're watching most closely is probably how these shifts are changing the operating environment. As organizations really grow and integrate, I think expectations around the compliance, reporting, governance, operational consistency, they're really rising for operators of all sizes. And consolidation is making a strong, stable industry voice more important than ever. As the only nonprofit trade association dedicated to promoting, protecting, and growing the health and fitness industry, HFA is seen to call a stewardship for responsible investment of membership dues. So I think consolidation doesn't reduce the need for collective action. It actually heightens it and making a unified and trusted association essential.
Well, and with the flurry of activity, I know one destination that there's going to be a lot of conversations around this and all the different sectors that we've covered in this conversation. The HFA show is going to be in San Diego this March. And of course, we address that's an important gathering moment for the industry. You see all the reunions, the energy is always high. So, how is this year's event designed to reflect what operators are actually navigating today?
Yeah, we've really listened to our members, and yeah, back to that member appreciation campaign that we did a few months ago. And so, one of the things is that we have intentionally designed San Diego around what operators are navigating with right now. So, this year's event is going to look and feel different, with the education being grounded in real world challenges like the growth we just talked about, like staffing that we talked about, technology, regulation, and evolving member expectations. So, one clear example that we're so excited about this year is the evolution of what we're calling Innovation Alley, which is going to bring startups and emerging companies onto the show floor so that operators can explore what's next while they're still focusing on practical solutions today. Really excited about that new aspect of the show. It will also continue to reflect how advocacy and research are now fully embedded into the education and one of the values that we're delivering. So, additionally, as our industry becomes more and more global, we're bringing insights from the international partners directly into the core event as well. I've spent a lot of my time in recent months on the road around the world, and I'm so excited to bring those international partners, to San Diego to interact with a lot of the U.S. community and frankly the international community that come to this show from over 80 countries typically. So we're going to also celebrate the industry through our Hall of Fame. That we kicked off last year, which I thought was a really, really fantastic event. We've named all of our honorees for the year, and it's going to be really a tremendous celebration. So excited to honor many of those leaders who have really helped shape the industry where we are today. So it's both a forward-looking moment and a chance to recognize how far the industry has come.
I know that many people have that highlighted in bold on their 2026 calendar without a doubt. As we round out the conversation here, though, it is a new year that is upon us, which is a time of reflection, setting goals, maybe some mindset shifts. So, as leaders are planning for 2026, what is the single most important mindset shift that you believe the industry should make right now?
I think it might sound kind of simple, but the most important mindset shift is recognizing that the industry is strongest when we move forward together. And the challenges and opportunities ahead, whether around regulation, healthcare integration, workforce issues, technology, they're really bigger than any single operator or brand. That's why the HFA exists, to bring the entire industry to the table as the only nonprofit trade association dedicated to protecting, promoting, and growing the health and fitness industry. A collective approach matters because it allows us to advocate with credibility and produce research that reflects the full market and deliver education that serves operators of all sizes. So, as the industry continues to grow and evolve, success won't come from operating in silos. It'll come from shared investment, shared insight, and a unified voice. So, staying engaged with the HFA isn't just about an individual benefit, it's about ensuring that the industry as a whole has strength, stability, and leadership that it needs as we head into 2026 and years beyond that.
Well, I know that people always are looking for ways to infuse best practices into a new year. So I will make sure in the show notes that it lists how people can find details on taking part of the HFA show, how they can connect with you and your teams, and of course, a link to Shorts with Liz, because I know that you're spending more time on the microphone as well to keep everyone in the loop. Liz Clark, thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you and your team in March.
Me too. Thank you so much, Krissy.
You've just listened to the All Things Fitness and Wellness podcast, hosted by Krissy Vann. Be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly featuring industry insiders and influencers. Together, we're on a mission for everyone to live a life fit and well.